Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. We've already talked about the best characters from Dynasty Warriors 3. Now it's time to talk about the worst characters to play as from Dynasty Warriors 3. So if you saw the first video, you know what we're doing here. We're going to jump right into it, 2 honorable mentions, and then we're going straight into the top 10. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Starting off with number 12, our first honorable mention with a 6.3 out of 10 rating for this character. She's okay, but she did not do too well. It's going to be Miss Xiao Qiao. So before we jump in, if you haven't seen the first one, we're going to be rating these characters on 6 different categories, which is their AoE capabilities, dueling, Muso effectiveness, the ease of use, the overall kit rating, and then their speed, and then it averages out into a number. So Xiao Qiao, her AoE capabilities, I gave her a 4 out of 10. Her C3 is good. Everything else is no. Muso end is okay, but it's not reliable for damage. Moving into her dueling aspect, I gave her a 9 out of 10. She excels very well in a 1v1, except having the Muso for counter, but she's so fast, you can capitalize on it so easy. Her square string is really good, super fast. You can really bully somebody with her speed. Her Muso is a 3 out of 10. It is so bad. Very hard to control. AoE is just to spread out the enemy. It's not to do damage. It's just to get people away from you. Moving into ease of use, I gave her a 6 out of 10. She is very, very fast with her square string and her attacks in general, but she is not good in crowds. And for duelings, she needs to pick off people instead of fighting a group, because you will struggle with this character if you play with her. Moving into the overall kit rating, I gave her a 6 out of 10, mainly from speed. Her speed is what brings her number up, but everything else, including her jump attack, it's not great for breaking guard. It's hard to get past people. And then the only perfect rating I got for Xiao Qiao, she's undoubtedly, to me, probably the fastest character in the game, both attack and speed-wise overall. So she got a 10 out of 10 for me, and that's all I have for her. Moving into number 11, we got the other OG female from the game, and that's going to be Miss Diao Chan. Starting off with her AoE, I gave her a 5 out of 10. Her Muso is decent for AoE, and C4 is okay as well, but everything else is just too slow to get to. She's more built for one-on-one, which goes into the dueling aspect, which I gave her an 8 out of 10. I think she does well in a 1v1. Jump attack is easy to abuse with. Attack speed isn't too fast, but I think the initial square string is fast enough to take advantage. And then moving into her Muso, I gave her a 7 out of 10. It's decent. Not great if you're countering a hit from behind, but it's decent with enemies in front of you. Moving into her ease of use, I gave her a 6 out of 10. Her C's are tough to get to. They're like, she's hard to use them. And her square string isn't that great either. Her Muso is the best part of her kit. And moving into her overall kit rating, I gave her a 5 out of 10. Her slow C's aren't good at all. And again, her only saving grace is the Muso. And then finally, her speed, her movement, and jump attack makes up for her slow attacks. All right, and she had an overall of 6.25 out of 10, putting her right before the top 10. And with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the top 10 worst characters, in my opinion, from Dynasty Warriors 3. Alright, starting off at number 10, we've got a 6.17 rating for this character, just slightly underneath Diao Chan, and that's going to be Mr. Pang Tong. Pang Tong's AoE capabilities, I gave a 6 out of 10. His Muso, his C6, and his C4 are good, but it's very hard to get to the Cs because of his square string, which we can talk about in the next section. Dueling, only give him a 6.5 because his square string is super unreliable. It's very slow to get to the C's, and his counter Muso is the only reliable thing about Mr. Pang Tong, which leads me right into his Muso. I gave him a solid, perfect 10 out of 10. He has one of the best Musos in the game. It is absolutely destructive. Best thing about this character, 100%. Moving into the ease of use, I gave him a 5 out of 10. He's tough to play with. He's very janky. The staffs are not a good thing to play with. You can spam the Muso easy in the red. I think that's the best place to be. And then following it up into the kit rating overall, gave him a 4.9. Again, staffs were not created to be good in this game, but the Muso really saves his kit rating. I mean, it's absolutely destructive with Pang Tong. Moving into his speed as well, gave him a 5 overall. He's just average speed, average movement, average attack speed. Doesn't really help him having the speed or not, as his kit isn't that great. Now, moving into number 9. This character has a solid rating of a 6 out of 10, and that's going to be the Bowmaster himself, Mr. Shaco. Starting off with his AoE, I gave him a 6 out of 10. His Muso is good to clear. C4 is decent to clear as well, but that's pretty much it. He's just not a reliable AoE character. Moving into his dueling, I gave him a 6 out of 10. He would struggle in duels. He's too slow to do consistent safe damage. He can juggle. It'd be very tough to do with extras around. His counter Muso is actually really good though. Moving into his Muso, I gave him an 8 out of 10. Good Muso overall, but he's a bit vulnerable at the end from people behind. but he's not too bad, so I gave him an 8 out of 10. I think his Muso's pretty good. Moving into his ease of use, I gave him a 6. The speed of the character will make you struggle. Again, with those crowds closing in on you, you're going to have a hard time keeping yourself safe playing as Xiahou Yuan. And then moving right into his kit as well, another 6 out of 10 for him. Again, C4 is okay, the Muso is good, but everything else, it's just not reliable or it's not great. And then finally, his speed, I gave him a 4 out of 10. He's just a slow all-around character, not fun to use in my opinion. Then moving into number 8, we've got a 5.75 rating out of 10 for this character. That's going to be the Mad Bull himself, Mr. Dion Wei. Starting off with his AoE, I gave him a 6 out of 10. His Muso is pretty good. C4 is decent for AoE spread, but he's slow. Square string is not that great. C6 is not good at all. There's not many reliable things for this character besides his Muso. Moving into the duel, he's a little too slow to be consistent. You can't really juggle with him as well, and his Muso is decent for counters and to do consistent combo damage, but other than that, you're going to be pretty vulnerable in a duel situation. Moving into his Muso, I gave him a 6.5 out of 10. Again, AoE not strong enough to push away danger, and his slow speed makes him vulnerable. Then moving into his ease of use, again, another 6 out of 10 for Dion Wei, because you're just going to struggle with him in crowds. He doesn't have the biggest AoE hit, so if you don't clear, or if you're not in a place to clear the people in front of you, you're going to struggle. Moving into his overall kit rating, I gave him a 5.5 out of 10. Square string is really, really good. His C4 is good, but everything else is just, it's eh. And finally, I gave his speed a 3.5 out of 10. He's a very slow character, just like Xiahou Yuan. Just slow all around, not a good character to get in and out of places, and you're not going to do a lot of consistent safe damage without taking some damage yourself. Moving into number 7, we've got Mr. Taishitsu stepping up to the plate. Overall, 4.67 out of 10. Not a great character to use. Starting off with his AoE, we got a 4 out of 10. His kit is not built for AoE damage. His square string is the only thing that kind of gives him a little bit of AoE, but even then, if you got a crowd on you, he is getting peppered. Moving into dueling, I think his dueling is much better. 8 out of 10 for his dueling. Definitely what he was built for. It's not the best, but it was definitely what he was built for. C4 is not helpful because it flings him away. Same thing with the Muso. It flings him too far, so by the time you close in on him, you can't really consistently do enough damage. Moving over to his Muso, 3 out of 10. Not great. Not great. His counter is good. You know, using it for a counter is good, but AoE is limited and it flies people away too much, giving him time to recover. Not a spot you want to be if you're trying to do consistent damage. Into his ease of use, the character, I gave him a 4 out of 10. He's a tough character to use. You get surrounded, you're going to have a tough time with him. Moving into his kit rating, overall, I gave him a 4 out of 10. The Muso is good for counter, but he is vulnerable after if he's stuck in a crowd. Attack speed's really slow. His C6 is bad if you end up missing it, and his C4 is not good. You can't juggle with the C5. He doesn't really have much on his kit besides potentially his square string. And then finally, his speed, I just gave him an average 5 out of 10. He's got an average attack speed, and his movement speed felt a little slower than average. Next up, coming in at number 6, we've got the king of Nanman himself, Mr. Meng Huo. We got an overall rating of 4.1 out of 10. Starting off with his AoE capabilities. The only reason that he gets these 4 points is because of his Muso. His C6 is also really good for AoE, but it takes way too long to get there. Moving into the dueling aspect for Meng Huo, he's a 3 out of 10. His red Muso counter spam, that is all you have. You can't, even the jump attack is not great because he lays out flat. So even if you miss, it's an easy counter, you're vulnerable. Moving into the Muso, just like with Peng Tong, absolutely goated Muso, 10 out of 10. It is the absolute saving grace for the character, but that's not enough to save him from being in this list. And then moving into the ease of use, he's a 4 out of 10. He's a hard character to use. His Muso is great. If you're in the red, you can take advantage of it and destroy things, but everything else is hard to use. And moving into his kit overall rating, I gave him a 1.5 out of 10. The only thing I gave him a full point for the Muso and half a point for his C6. Everything else is garbage. Running attack is bad. Jump attack is bad. His kit, his C's are just all over the place and bad. And then his speed, he rivals some of the slowest characters in the game. I think I actually gave him the lowest ranking speed in the game, which is a 2 out of 10. Absolutely abysmal. His attack speed, his movement speed, all that's terrible. I gave him 2 points just because he's able to do his Muso very fast. That is all I got for Mr. Meng Huo. Next up, coming at number 5, we've got the man of my nightmares, and that's going to be Mr. Sima. After doing my last video for Dynasty Warriors 3, or the hardest weapons video, I was dreading playing as him. It was PTSD all over again. So overall for him, he got a 3.92 out of 10 rating from me. And starting off with his AoE, I gave him a 5 out of 10. The Muso, C6, and his C4, they have decent AoE abilities. And that's all, just decent. Everything else is terrible. Moving into his dueling aspects, 4.5 out of 10. His square string is decent for it, but you can't juggle. His red Muso counter, it kind of works. And then moving into his Muso, I gave him a 5 out of 10. It's a very average Muso. It's not terrible. It's not the worst I've seen or done, but it's pretty bad. It clears all the enemies in front of you, but it leaves you vulnerable to aggressive crowd. Moving into his ease of use, he is a 3 out of 10. He is a very hard character to use. You will struggle with him no matter what. He is very hard to keep people off of you. It's tough. And then moving into his kit, overall rating, I gave him a 2 out of 10. Absolutely terrible kit. It's just not worth it to go to the C6. I mean, the C6 is okay. I think it does decent damage and clears out a couple of people in front of you, but it's not worth it to get up there. His Muso is decent. It's just not a good kit. And then his speed, I gave him a 4 out of 10. It's just an all around. Movement speed is really slow. I had to use his running attack to go faster because he was so slow moving around. Now, moving into number 4, we have Sima Yi's counterpart at a 3.58 out of 10 rating. This is not a list Zhuge Liang wanted to be above him, but he is. Coming at number 4, we've got Zhuge Liang, and he is just not fun to play. Oh God. Starting off with the AoE, we've got a 4 out of 10 for him. The only good thing about him is the C4. Moving into dueling, absolutely abysmal. 2.5 out of 10. His square string is eh. Everything else is not useful. C4 is good, but it's very vulnerable. When you use your C4 and he lands, he gets people around you, you get peppered. Moving into his Muso, probably the worst Muso in the game. Oh, no, second worst Muso in the game. I gave him a 1.5 out of 10. Absolutely garbage. Doesn't do anything. Leaves you vulnerable. You can't even counter with it because when you get hit from behind, he shoots forward. So you have to find a way to turn him around. By the time you turn around, they're already blocking. So his Muso is one of the most useless Musos in the game. Very, very bad. Moving into his kit rating, overall, I gave him a 2.5. The only thing, like I said, is his C4 and the attack speed that he has on his normal square string. That's it. That is the only good things about his kit. And then finally, his speed, which is the best thing about the character. His movement speed and attack speed is actually really good. He actually moves quite fast for a character that's not great, and I gave him an 8 out of 10 when it comes to his speed. Then moving into number 3, revisiting the staffs once again, we've got the master himself, Mr. Zhang Jiao. He is an absolutely abysmal character in this game. Not fun to play with at all. Starting off with his AoE capabilities, I gave him a 2 out of 10. He is just terrible. Square string is not built for AoE. C4 and Muso and they have AoE. It's not good at all. 2 out of 10. Absolutely painful. His dueling capability, they gave him a 3 out of 10. I could find a way to make it work, but he's just got such a bad kick that when you get offline with his attacks, it gets very painful. And his Muso is not a good counter. Speaking of the Muso, the reason it's not good, I gave it a 2 out of 10. It's very useless because if you have allies in front of you, the first fireballs that you shoot out, they disappear. It's like when you shoot an arrow and it hits one of the allies first, it disappears. So it has the exact same effect as that. So it makes a lot of the fighting with your allies kind of worthless. Moving into the ease of use, I gave him a 4 out of 10. He's a straightforward character to use, but he's just super difficult to use. His square string is not going to help you. It's not user friendly. If you're in a crowd, you're going to get overrun. Speaking of his kit rating, I gave him a 3 out of 10. There's nothing good about his kit except for maybe the C4, and his jump attack is decent too, but C4 is alright. And you got the flamethrower effect, but I feel like it doesn't do enough consistent damage to be safe. You know, it's not worth to use in my opinion. And then finally, his speed, I gave him a 6 out of 10. He's decently fast. He just doesn't have a good kit to match. That's all. He's decently fast. His speed's okay. Attack speed is okay, but it's not good enough to compensate for his terrible kit. Then coming in with the silver medal for the second worst character from Dynasty Warriors 3, we've got Zhu Rong, and my goodness, she is absolutely garbage in this game. Starting off with her AoE, I gave her a 2 out of 10. She is terrible. Nothing is good except for the C4. And even then, that's pushing it. Their Muso is crap. Single hit damage, double if lucky. It's not really even used for actual damage. It's kind of for countering and pushing people. That's what I use it for. I can't use the combo and do extra damage. None of that stuff is happening with her. Moving into the dueling, I gave her a 4 out of 10. Her 1v1 ability is okay. Muso is not good. I can't rely on it. So the red Muso doesn't even matter because it doesn't do much. Jump attack is garbage. Then moving into her Muso, I gave her a 3 out of 10. I just gave her a 3 for when it does good. Sometimes I get a little lucky and I actually get most hits on the character I'm trying to hit, or I clear out people. It does do what it needs to do. It's just a very unsafe Muso. Moving into the ease of use, gave her 3 out of 10. You're going to absolutely struggle with her, guaranteed. If you are in the crowd or you're fighting a general one-on-one, there is no easy stages for Zhu Rong unless she's beefed up and you're playing. That's it. But if you're fresh, playing on easy, you're going to struggle with her. She is absolutely tough to use. Moving into her overall kit rating, gave her a 2 out of 10. It's very, very bad. C4 is the only kind of decent move. C3 is okay, but she's just so slow. It's too slow to make a difference, too slow to do anything. And speaking of speed, gave her a 5 out of 10. She has good movement speed, but her attack speed is so bad. It's like she's thinking about the next move before she does it. There's like a second between each hit. It's very slow, very bad. And then finally, coming in at number 1, we got the big man of Yan himself, Choo Choo. I just feel like Choo Choo wasn't built to be good in these games. I don't know why he wasn't put in the games, but he doesn't feel good at all. Starting off with his AoE, 4 out of 10. Very terrible kit. AoE is alright with his swings, but it's just way too slow. Moving into the dueling, I also gave him a 4 out of 10. He can potentially put up consistent pressure, but it's not really possible in a crowd. It's not really possible to keep pressure on and keep people off of you. Choo Choo is a very hard character to play with. Moving into his Muso, he has the worst Muso in the game. 1 out of 10. He's absolutely garbage. If they're next to a wall, sure, you're going to do some great damage. But if they are not, they're flinging. You're going in to try to stop those cross who are shooting you? No, you just made it easier for them to spread apart. The first time you hit the Muso, they all spread out. And they all get up and they all shoot you right away. So Muso is absolutely terrible. His ease of use, I gave him a 2 out of 10. You will struggle with him. He wasn't built to be good, in my opinion, in this game. His overall kit rating, a 2.5. His C6 is decent. Takes way too long to get there. You're not going to pull it off consistently. C3 is too long of a windup. His Muso is trash. C4 it's okay, but it has a similar effect to Muso. You just fling people away. Not a good kit at all. And then his speed rating, I gave him a 2.5 out of 10. A little bit faster than Meng Huo, but he is still super slow. Yeah, guys, that's all I have for this video. My God, I feel so drained after that. Oh, playing through those guys is not fun. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. These are my picks for the top 10 worst characters from Dynasty Warriors 3. I'll be doing the other games here as soon as I can, as soon as I go through all of them. But yeah, I mean, I love the series. All the characters aren't going to have their fair share of spotlight or their fair share of play, whatever it may be. But these ones for Dynasty Warriors 3, they're tough. If you want a challenge, play as one of those. It'll be tough. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.